All right. What's up, everybody? We're back with Vintage House once again on a rainy Wednesday night in Chicago with your host, Lori Branch and Nick Fall, aka Mega. And guess who's in the house tonight?
Hey,
Terry Hunter. Woohoo!
DJTH.
Mega, what's up, brother?
What's up? T.
You know this guy?
Do he know me?
Dude, no, I said, do you know Kevin?
Oh, I do.
Do you?
My
Who
brother.
doesn't know Kevin, right?
Who doesn't know?
I am a humble servant.
Who doesn't know DJ Terry Hunter? If they don't, something wrong with them, right?
Hey,
That's right.
they may not. Let's educate them.
DJ,
hey,
record label owner,
CEO,
remixer.
DJ, producer. He does it all. So we want to thank you all for tuning in. We're going to have a nice long chat with Terry Hunter, one like I hope you've never seen before. We like to unpack things that haven't been unpacked in other places. And let's talk about what's happening in the world today. So Terry's got a big voice. I know that, and he's very prolific. So I know he has a lot of things going on in his mind. But let's just start with like what's happening with this pandemic. How are you handling it?
Whew, good now. I think I'm okay. I'm used to it. It's our new reality. So with that being said, you have to adjust. You have to, us as entertainers, DJs, producers, musicians, we have to deal with the cards that we're dealt, so to speak. And I like to try to analyze things and get in front of things and then stop worrying about it and just go. We're here. It has been a rough road, you know what I mean, for everybody. And it's tough to see a lot of our friends that's in the business and across the world not figure it out. And I don't think anybody has figured it out yet. I think we're all trying to figure out, we're trying to do a little of this, a little of that, and kind of see what sticks. No one has completely figured it out yet. Not even the world. So I think it's safe to say that we just got to go with the flow,
How much of it is incorporated into the artistry and the creativity? That's what I'm curious to know.
Yeah, like a lot right now. Like I said before, like in the beginning, right when we got hit in March, it was so funny. I was supposed to go to England, and I was hearing about the pandemic stuff or the coronavirus. They was calling. They hadn't even started calling it COVID-19. But I was in February. I was in Dominican Republic, tying up loose ends for what was supposed to be my birthday celebration in Dominican Republic, and then came home for a few days, and then that's when it was starting to really get crazy, and I was headed to England, and then. Obviously, I mean, like I was on my way there. And then when they announced, yo, you're going to have to stay over there and be quarantined for a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, no. So I just started watching everybody, pop up doing streams. A few people have been doing streams before. And I was just like, nah, this don't feel right. So I'm just going to sit back and figure out what to do and, make it happen. And then I just watched people and I was like, I want to go on for a reason, a purpose, a cause. And then about a month and a half later, me and my team sat down and we figured it out. And if anybody remember when I first started streaming, my first set of streams I was giving back. I felt like that I had to give back. We did one. I think my very first stream was we raised money for the Frankie Knuckles Foundation. And then after that, me, Frederick, Alan Wayne and the Chosen Few, we got together and we got the marker for Ron Hardy that has not been done since he's been passed. And I want to give people an update on that. We got a lot of information coming soon. It is done. We are planning a trip down there to document everything. I'm super happy. Shout to the Hardy family for that. And that's kind of what I was doing. And then the week after that, I hooked up with Josephine's Cafe on 79th, and then what we did was we did a food drive and we fed 200 people, 200 senior citizens, and I was doing that through just all of my streaming. I just didn't feel like what we were going through. We didn't know what it was, and I just wanted to use my platform in the beginning to make it about someone else, to help someone else first. And that's what we successfully did.
You did. You've been very, very generous, Terry, and that doesn't surprise me. You have a very generous spirit. You really exude just positivity. I think that's why so many people are attracted to you and your energy and your music. And so I want to say thank you. Half of everybody is we appreciate, the example that we really appreciate it. It's a model how we need to be in this pandemic, that we've got to pour into each other. Absolutely. Love and compassion and support in a way that we haven't had to do before. And I know it's tough, especially for a full-time producer, CEO, DJ, this your bread and butters in being out, so absolutely. You can do that. So I want to take some time, this is Vintage House, and listen, no better guest to have on Vintage House is someone who is vintage like DJ Terry Hunter, but also like as age like fine wine. Hey. Like you are getting better with time. So I mean, listen, I know I've been following you for a long time, and as have many people on the show. So we know you get better and better. Like, your music is just amazing, and you are probably one of the most prolific, productive producers in the world. Now, and am I exaggerating?
I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but I try. I just, the bottom line is as I think, I just love music so much, and I love to where how my palette has changed over the years, and just me wanting to dig deep into music. And it's just, I'm a fan of it, and I feel like I fell back in love with it a few years ago. And I told somebody I feel like I'm like 21 again. And Kevin, you remember those days, man. You was around us when we was trying to figure it all out. And I fell in love with it again. I fell in love with technology. I fell in love with musicianship. I fell in love with all of that. I embrace the technology. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those that try to, this and this and that, let's keep it real. Like, listen, it's simple. I tell people all the time. Big controversy thing years ago, the sync button. Hey, the sync button is there. If you don't like it, don't use it.
That's right.
And it's just that simple. So I love it all. And, I was the part of that last generation that got the chance to experience coming from vinyl, CD, to the computer, to flash drives, and in between records, tape decks with a pitch, and us using a reel and bringing all of that stuff out.
That's right.
I was a part of that era. So can't nobody tell me anything about, you ain't keeping it real because you're using this.
And that's why you're good, though. You're good because you evolved with the process. And so you were there at the beginning. You understand how to use all the technology. Absolutely. And it makes you a better DJ. I feel for folks who haven't had that experience. Some of the younger DJs that I work with are actually using records now. They're like, I want to have the experience you have. I want to understand like what that means to sort of evolve with the technology. And do you think it matters in how somebody DJs if they started on wax and now they're using sticks? What do you think?
No, I don't think it matters at all. I think it's about the music that you're playing. And I think it's about how you play it and knowing your records, because I feel like a lot of people, and you can hear it in listening to them, and it's no disrespect, but people play records nowadays, I think, just because the BPMs are the same. And that doesn't make one record go into the next one because it's the same. You know what I mean? So I
do know what you mean. It's awful.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, your blend is good, and then the energies is just totally off. And I'm all about feel. I'm all about, just energy. Even if you're not technically the best, if those two records and those feelings match, so be it. I'd rather hear you, gym shoes in the dryer all day versus with totally two different records,
It's so you have such an amazing point. And I think as DJs, we can get trapped into the perfect blend.
Yes.
And that's kind of a DJ thing. Like, you can hear when something is off, and the best DJs, actually the best DJs are the ones who have imperfect blends because they're experimenting. You know, they're using stuff that doesn't necessarily have a programmed drum beat. You know what I mean? They're using live instruments,
Yes.
which are imperfect.
Absolutely.
They are music masters. They know how to blend sounds so that, you know, a dancer is going to hear it and they're going to hear, oh, that's the jam. They're going to be like, oh, that came in sort of off. I think I lost Kevin. There you go.
Hey,
he's back.
That COVID Wi-Fi action going on.
No worries. So listen, I want to stop and go back.
Yes.
So, you know, little Terry Hunter was 10 years old.
Yes.
5th grade or so. Where did you go to elementary school?
I went to two. I went to two elementary schools. The first elementary school I went to, I did kindergarten till about 5th, 6th grade. I went to, which is now called Arthur Ashe on 85th and English.
Oh, yeah.
But back then it was called John A. Sabarbro.
Sabarbro.
Yes, sir. Yes. I went to Sabarbro on 85th and Ingleside. And then in those, at that time, I was a little wild, I guess, a little hot-headed young kid. And my mother had me when she was very young, like maybe, I keep forgetting the age. It was 13 going on 14
Wow.
on 14. And needless to say, my grandparents raised me. And so I was kind of cutting up, and my grandmother and grandfather was like, no, you coming with us. And so I moved I used to live on 82nd in Ellis, and then I had family on 83rd in Ingleside, so I used to walk to school every day. And then I moved to a place called Appleville Condominiums, which is on 24th and Canal.
Okay.
To a school in Bridgeport, and it's called Robert A. Healy. And I graduated from there. So I did like 5th grade all the way to 8th grade there.
Okay. So you were in different parts of the city. That must have been good to experience.
Yes.
Learning a lot about the man still.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we learn things on Vintage House, you know.
Yes, we do. And so but I gotta ask the question, because Sabarbro was a tough school. And the students that went there represented that toughness full effect.
Listen, I don't know if you guys can see this. You see that?
Yes. I see that little scar, yeah.
I got that from Sabarbro, and that's what got me shipped to my grandparents. Yeah. Needless to say, I have a mark for life from that.
Right. The Peary, Dixon, St. Clotilde.
Dixon and Sabarbro Ward?
Yeah.
Kevin. Oh, my God. Oh.
Yeah.
I had to get out.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead, Kevin. Sorry.
I was just going to ask about the school in Bridgeport, because, you know, at the time, Bridgeport wasn't
friendly either.
No.
I'm
along racial lines.
That was it was a straight up culture shock, because I went to an all black school going into a predominantly white, Latin, and Asian school, because, you know, we're right next to Chinatown. And so that was a whole nother experience for me. And so I think that in the long run really shaped who I am today, with my grandparents putting their foot down, raising me, and was like, look, because again, my grandparents was some of my friends' parents' age, you know, so they were relatively young. You know what I mean? It wasn't you know, like your grandparents, you look at them as kind of older and whatever. Like, no, my grandfather, you know, when I was younger, they owned a lounge on the west side of Chicago, and he was a disc jockey, not like us, but he played records for the tavern that he owned on the west side. So it was just a whole different experience, man. And I think that looking back on things and where I am in life has kind of opened me up to be able to deal with a lot of the different cultures that I have been fortunate to deal with, where I've seen some people, even in the business, that first time doing stuff, going to Europe and adapting to different cultures is kind of rough, you know?
Yeah, well, you got a good training in how to deal with people.
Absolutely.
And that it's really important, and it's something that we don't talk a lot about. We talk a lot about house music on the South Side, which is a very segregated experience for most of us. I was raised on the South Side. Kevin's raised on the South Side. Lauren's raised on the South Side. We went to all Black schools, and we kind of had our own little Black bubbles.
Yes.
And that was an important part of creating who we were. But, you know, there were Black kids who had other experiences.
Yes.
And there is a handicap to being in a homogeneous for your entire life. It prepares you for the world, which is not homogeneous.
Absolutely.
And I do know Black people and white people and Asians and Latinos who, and all, you know, many who are handicapped by that.
Absolutely.
Like they get out in the world, and as adults, you can tell that there's something that's not comfortable in how they deal with other people because they just have not had that experience.
Absolutely.
And I can see how that might have helped you in, you know, your world travels.
Yes, it definitely did. And I swear I thank my grandparents and my mother for it. They're deceased now, but I thank them for grabbing me and was like, oh no, you finna experience something else. 83rd and Ingleside, buddy.
Yeah, it's all about exposure, right?
Yes.
You wonder, you want your kids to do something different, put them somewhere else.
There you go.
You know?
There you go.
So I want to go back to, I know we talked about being 10 years old, but you talked about, you know, in the past, I've heard you talk about that you started DJing at 10 years old. What did that mean exactly?
So, like I said earlier, I was fortunate to have a cousin that I was named after.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother, again, was very young. When she had me, she was really close with my cousin, by the way, Terry as well. And so at that time,
Big Terry.
Exactly. Well, Big Terry, shout out to my cousin, Big Terry. We he owned a lounge, and so I was, you know, fortunate enough to be hearing all this music. And I got a big family, so all birthdays, holidays, we would get together and just play music. And I remember one day, I've told this story before, but I don't think I've told it live. But Terry had to babysit me. So my aunt grew up in Marynook, and Terry wanted to go to this party that was happening up north, Belmont Rocks. And Frankie and Andre was spinning. And he was like, look, it's during the day, you coming with me. And so I just remember him taking me there, and we got out there, and it literally changed my life. I'm hearing all of these records that Frankie was playing, and I'm like, yo, that's the records that my pops play at home or play in the lounge. And I was like, how is he making these records sound like one long record? I tell people, like, only people in Chicago really get this. But when you hear somebody scream your name, all right, Frankie, all right, Ronnie, and I'm like, who is this man that they are screaming his name like this? And that just, literally, it changed my life. And I was just sitting there in awe. And this was in late July, beginning of August. My birthday is mid-August. And I just remember flying home, telling my grandparents, I know what I want for my birthday, because they had been asking me. I want a mixer. I want to be a DJ. And that started. That's how it went for me.
You know, I was wondering about that because I'm like, how's at 10 years old he's hearing Frankie Knuckles? Now I understand.
Absolutely.
Because he did day parties, and so did Andre.
Absolutely.
Over at the Rocks. Sweet.
At the Rocks.
Yeah, the Rocks was, hey, listen, I was 18 years old hanging out at the Rocks. That was the jam. We loved the Rocks. There was always so much going on. We actually crowded that place out so much that those white people got, who owned the yacht club that was right there. They were like, we got to get these Negroes out of here. They were work. I am serious. They talked to the aldermen. They talked to the police department. They were like, it's just too much. So if you wonder why things moved from the Rocks to Montrose Harbor, that's why.
There you go. See,
city council ordinances, they're the best, aren't they?
That's it.
So Frankie Knuckles. So 1984, you were how old? You were a little bit older by then.
Yeah, 14.
Marvin Terry, who you frequently chat about.
Yes.
Comes over. Wants to get you to open for him.
Absolutely.
And comes to your house and says, "Yeah, I'm going to get you to open for you, but I'm going to. You got to pay me to be on my flyer."
Oh, Marvin Terry.
So tell me about that experience.
So I I had went to Dunbar, and in the middle of the year, I transferred and I went to Hyde Park, the greatest high school in the world, might I add. Shout out to Hyde Park, Career Academy, 88, baby.
PCA.
So I started DJing. You know, we had our tapes, and I just found a little crew there, and then we started DJing, and then I did the homecoming, and I remember a lot of promoters came up, John Hunt, Marvin Terry, DeAndre, Steve Poindexter, like a lot of those people. And he was like, hey man, can you bring all these people that you have here to my party? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I'm frantic. I knew of Marvin Terry, but didn't know. And so he was like, well, listen, this is what you got to do. We're going to do this party at the Hummingbird, brother. And I got a lot of DJs representing all the high schools. So in order for me to put your name on the fly and you bring your people, this is going to make you a popular DJ. And you got to pay me. I remember at that time, it had to be $50 or $75. So I was like, well, look, I got to talk to my grandparents. I ain't got that type of money. Come to the house. And he was like, oh, okay, cool. Again, my grandparents were younger. They wasn't the old. My grandfather actually he was almost a little thug. You know what I mean? He was a street West Side guy. And I just remember, he said, I told my grandmother and grandfather, I said, listen, I need $50 or $75, whatever it is. I'm doing this big party at the Hummingbird and blah, blah, blah. And I'm super excited. I was like, he's coming over. He was like, yeah, have him come over. And so he sat down and he talked to my grandfather. And so he was like, first and foremost, let me tell you this. I know how this goes. So him and Marvin Terry is having a conversation. They know some of the same people that was in the streets. Mm-hmm. He was like, my boy ain't paying you nothing to get on your fly. I'm going to allow him to do this party for you for free. But in actuality, you should be paying him for his service. And if he's bringing a crowd in and is bringing these kids and they paying $5 at the door, what are you giving him? Because that money is going to you. Well, it's exposure. He was like, no, you ain't getting that. So this is what it is. So now I'm hearing this conversation and I'm fuming. Like, stuff for me, like, And the next thing you know, he told me to come in the front room and he said he was going to put my name on the flyer. And the next day he came back and dropped flyers off. And needless to say, about 300 people from Hyde Park came to support me.
Love it.
My journey on getting put on. John Hunt from Gucci started coming and started, hey man, I want to get you to do this at De La Salle, and I want you to do this battle at Mont Carmel, and I want you to do this at Scenic Nations and Leo, and it just went through the roof for me.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
I love, you know what keeps coming up in a lot of these conversations? I think we in the house music community must have the most supportive parents in the world. I know not all of them were, but I hear many people, especially folks who have made a big name in production, who have that foundational support to help get them there.
That's right.
And that's not a story you hear a lot.
Too. Like, and a lot of people don't realize this. Like, big ups and shout out to my brother Gene Hunt. Like, people don't realize the history that me and Gene had. When me and Gene crossed paths, we met each other, and Gene was starting to really get it as a DJ. And Gene took me under his wing. And I'm going to tell some funny stories. Gene Hunt used to hate to drive. So I used to drive him to his gigs.
He's still
right. And that's how I really started getting on the other level, doing a lot of big parties, was because Gene cuffed me. And me and Gene was together. Like, I mean, you couldn't separate us when we was young teenagers. You know what I mean? He was doing the Racquetball Club. That's how I got to do the Racquetball Club. He was doing Sawyer's. That's how I got to do Sawyer's, just because we were hanging out. And I had did that situation with Marvin Terry. So I gotta shout my brother Gene Hunt. People do not realize how in the beginning he was very influential in me becoming a DJ in the city.
Gene's name comes up a lot. And Kevin, I know that he hasn't been on my show. Has he been on Philosophical Grooves?
Yeah, he's been on.
Yeah, he has.
In the
we gotta have him back.
Crew. That's right, Jerry. I think you came up to the studio when you might have brought him up. Yeah,
we gotta have him back. So Listen, basement party was a way to get your name in the street, and we do talk about basement parties, and I get asked that question like, when did you first start spinning?
Mm-hmm.
And I always think of like the first time I was at Sours, but before the Sours, there was a lot of basement parties. Like you kind of had to work your way up to that. Can you talk about like tell us about your first basement party, second basement party? What was happening? Who was there? Where were you?
Listen, my first basement party, we're gonna take it back to Mary Nook again. My cousin Terry and my aunt. When I did that thing at the Hummingbird, I caught the bug, and everybody was having house parties. Even a few of the guys that was in my age group around Mary Nook on the south side of Chicago. For those that don't know, Mary Nook is around 87th and like Avalon and
University
that area. And I used to stay over there.
Yeah,
and
those neighbors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big Terry.
We was throwing parties, so I just asked my aunt, like, and I love my aunt to death. My cousin Terry, she supported me in everything that I wanted to do. And I asked her one day, I was like, can I have a party? Now, she was having parties before that. Terry was having them, and my other cousin, Lisa, was having parties. And to go forward, the first time after the Frankie Knuckles experience, we had a party at my aunt's house. Mm-hmm. Brett Moore, I gotta shout him out, was DJing. He actually taught me how to DJ from DJing in my aunt's party. So that's fast forward years later, she let me do a party there. And I remember after I did the Hummingbird, it was maybe a month or two later, and we was doing those 99-cent, house parties. And I promoted it, and my aunt was like, do it if that's gonna help you and you're gonna stay out the streets.
Yes.
I can control everything that goes on in this house. So you do it. Yeah. And she supported me. And I remember doing a party, and I swear to you, 9:30, it might have been about 700 kids out on that block trying to, and police, everything came. And so we did a couple of more, and we kind of did invite only, but that's what I was doing. I was doing parties at my aunt's house in her basement, and that just took me to a whole nother level.
How often would you do that? Like, the basement parties were popular even while we were doing Sours and Loft and all that. Often you left there and went to somebody's basement and finished the party,
Absolutely. I did them until I couldn't do them no more. I did it for years, and not just at my aunt's house, but friends' house. You know what I mean? We would just find anybody that had a basement, and we would just go set up and we would do a party. So that was my thing, doing the high school stuff, the basement party. So shout out. That's at that time before, because I didn't have, obviously the education that I do now, but I thought house music came from, because we was throwing parties in people's houses.
What about backyard?
Of course.
Yep.
Backyard party.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's
parties.
That's I thought the music came, the name came from that.
I think that name came from a lot of different places. Like, there is no definitive answer on this question, but no, I love the basement parties. I want to shout out to Rodney Patterson, who's, I don't know if you guys knew Rodney, but he lived over not far from Chatham, across the street from Mary Nook. And we did a huge basement party for him there way back, like 1982. Right. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is amazing that this many people can fit in somebody's basement, because there must have been 100 people in his basement, that probably is not designed for that. But
and even then it was peace and love and unity.
Absolutely.
All fun, all love, all love.
Yeah.
So I want to move a little bit, a little bit ahead of the girls with the bobs and the penny loafers and the base and the high shirts. Remember those? That hairdo?
What? Yes.
The preppy handbook.
Right.
We need more preppy pictures, because people have been asking me about those. I got a request from Honey Dijon because she was putting together something. So if you have some preppy pictures from that era, would you mind sending them to me or posting them on Facebook? Because whatever she's doing is going to be big. So, get hooked up. Y'all know Honey Dijon?
Out to Honey, yeah.
Yeah, I told you that's the show. When you secure her.
Yes, she said she'll come on the show. We just gotta find the time.
All right.
Now's the time to do it while we're pandemic, So
there you go.
Yep.
All right. So listen, you have friends with equipment. You have parents, grandparents that support you. Like most producers, you have friends with equipment.
Yes.
Kenny Jordan had a 909 and a Poly 808. Yes. Am I right?
Poly 800.
800. Tell folks what I just said. What am I talking about?
Oh, man. Kenny Jordan, and especially in those days in 80, like I would say anywhere from I'm gonna go from my era, 83, 84, all the way up until 88. You know, in Chicago, we had to make ourselves different and stand out as all the other DJs because we would run into the same, you know, that time it was myself, Armando, Mike Dunn, Gene Hunt. It was just so many of us. You would obviously play the same records. And I was kind of looking at that time of, okay, I see what Frankie's doing. I see what Ron is doing. I want to make a record. Like, I want to take this further than DJing. And so I start making pause edits on my tape deck, learning how to splice reel to reels, just so if I played the same record, I would play my version that nobody ever had or heard before. Right. And so I would go a little bit deeper. And Kenny was a good friend of mine, and he was the only one that I knew had equipment. And he bought himself a 909 and a Poly 800 keyboard. And I remember when he bought it, he called me. He was like, man, you got to come over. You got to come over. I got the setup. I got some stuff. We can make some tracks. Don't know what I'm doing. Figured out how to program drums on the 909. And we synced the keyboard up because we didn't know how to play. So we synced the keyboard up to the drum machines to where if you hit the drum pads on the 909, it will play the keyboard sounds from the keyboard. And the first thing I thought was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And so I was like, huh. Dun, dun. Y'all remember that movie? You know what?
Green Acres?
Yeah, Green Acres.
Green Acres.
TV show.
The TV show Green Acres. For whatever reason, I must have just watched that before I got over Kenny's house. And all I can do was dun 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 dun. And I was like, hey man, this is cool. The inspiration was from Green Acres.
That's hysterical.
And I didn't know about mixing. All we did was hit play, recorded it to a reel-to-reel, and I'll never forget. I remember doing, was it Racquetball Club? It was one of those parties I did. It was maybe 4,000 kids there. And
wow!
That track. It was a party that Armando did somewhere. I cannot remember. And
Navy Pier, maybe.
No, it wasn't Navy Pier. It was after Navy Pier, I believe.
Okay.
But I played the record and it went nuts. It went up. And then I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, so at that time, me and Armando, Mike Dunn, we all hanging out. So after that, Armando was like, let's go over Mike's crib. And I'm sure y'all heard the story. Mike Dunn, Marshall Jefferson, they all lived in the same house. It was a studio in the basement. And so I'm still not versed on how to really make tracks. I just did this one track. So I called Mike. I'm like, yo, me and Armando on our way over. I'm like, man, I want you to, like, I need you to make me a track that says my name. And Mike was like, all right, come through. So we went over to the house. We was over there all day. I'm beating Marshall up in double dribble. We playing in his room. Mike downstairs working in the studio. So I finally go downstairs. He's like, what you want the track to do? I said, man, I just want you to just put something together and just say my name. And this is when sampling was only 3 or 4 seconds. Yeah. So Mike hooked up this drum track, had this asinine, and just got on the microphone. Terry Hunter. He's like, yeah, hit this button. The track going, I'm Terry Hunter. Terry Hunter. Terry Hunter. I was like, oh my God, this it. So again, history with me and Mike Dunn. Yeah. He did my first track with my name in it. I took that track to the party that night, had it on cassette, played it. It went crazy. And that's how I got into producing in like 88, 89-ish.
That's fantastic. I absolutely love the story. And I like how you want to, one of your first objectives was to put your name out there.
Absolutely. Like
as a producer, I think it's important because so many people are waiting to be discovered when you really kind of have to, show your value, you know, like.
And you got to understand, a few years ago, you had the Farty track, and then you had the Steve, Silk, Hurley.
Right.
It's been a few years. We need to hear a Terry Hunter record now. Like, let's go there. So it was just, you know, from what I was used to hearing, it was like, I thought that was amazing. And at that time, nobody else had did it. And I was like, I need a track with my name in it, because you're gonna say my name. You're gonna say and repeat my name from hearing this track. And no one is gonna have it except me. So that was my edge up, you know.
And it goes back to when you said lightning, right? When you went to a party at the Rocks, where you heard people calling Frankie and Andre, and you said that was the moment you decided you wanted to be in this.
Absolutely, Kevin.
And in it you are, my friend.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so listen, I want to talk about Frankie and Andre and Ron Hardy, you know, some of your early influencers. One of the things that I've heard you say is that the songs were structured.
Yes.
And so talk about what that means. What does that mean, songs were structured versus what you might hear in an unstructured song? And why were you attracted to that?
So even like, and a lot of that came from listening to Frankie, but you had records at that time, and at least for me, I wasn't that versed in music theory, but you had songs that started off and it was one groove, and then the verse, it would change into another groove, and then by the chorus, it would be another groove, and then in the middle of the record, it would turn into another groove. And so those particular peaks and valleys in the song, I was totally attracted to. Totally attracted to. And so if guys that heard Frankie was very song orientated. Like you could tell when Frankie was playing how he felt by the songs that he would play. And then Ron was just the 3-finger chorus, 3-finger bass line, but also incorporated those songs into his set that made him super dynamic and energetic to me. So it was just one of those things that where I wanted to adapt that in my production. And early on, because I wasn't a musician, like my ear was out of this world. And then at that time I met, me and Ron Trent was hanging out, and I met a guy by the name of Aaron Smith, and we formed a company called UBQ Productions, which in the very beginning was myself, Ron Trent, and Aaron Smith. And then Ron Trent went on to do his thing on his own, but me and Aaron kind of stuck with it for some years, and we made some history, and us doing those records kind of got me to start traveling overseas. And so structure was a very big deal. I wanted to know how to put a chord change here, and that's how when people early on started seeing, I left the tracks alone, because UBQ was a little bit more sophisticated at that time.
Yeah. And to that point, you know, a little technicality, weren't you at one point called Ubiquity and you shortened it to UBQ, right?
Yes. So people, I was a major fan of Roy Ayers. Yeah. And I knew his album was called Ubiquity. Right. So I'm like, yo, I didn't know what ubiquity meant. So it was like, oh, omnipresence, present in the same place at the same time. I'm like, well, that's how I want our music to be present in all places at all times. So in that era, you had the Def Mix Productions and this and that. And I'm like, Ubiquity is biting Roy. That's my hero. We're going to say UBQ Mix Productions. And then it went from UBQ Mix Productions to UBQ Project.
I love it.
And I got to insert a little bit of personal privilege here, because it was with UBQ Productions that I have had my one and only remix, and I thank you always for that opportunity.
But I fell in love, baby.
It goes back to what Lori said. You are, a genuinely kind and engaging person, and the act of kindness that you showed for an inexperienced remixer to put it down on this incredible track.
That mix was hot. Y'all got it. Those who's watching this, go look Kevin McFall's mix up UBQ Project When I Fell in Love is super dope.
You're on it. You're on
it. But you know, this is why I think Terry is so unique, is that I feel like, you know, a creative genius, and I consider you a creative genius. is somebody who understands how to pull through inspiration from lots of different sources.
Absolutely.
So, you know, because we could all sit in our bedrooms and like try to think of all this stuff that's out of our heads, and that's great. But the best geniuses, you know, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, all the people, anyone who you can think of is doing that, is grabbing inspiration from all kinds of places, and they become like the expert curators. You know, they become sort of a vehicle through which to deliver like this calibration of genius. And I see you that way, Terry. I think that you do that better than anybody.
Thank you so
you
much.
Put that so eloquently, Lori.
Yes,
it's true. And I guess one of the questions that it bears is, you know, you talked about your upbringing, you know, with the mix of your grandparents and parents and cousins and aunts. Was there any and you can talk about this in the context of the genres of dance music as one way, but what was the spiritual or church or faith-based dimension of Terry Hunter now or then and now?
Well, definitely. So again, my grandparents, I swear I'm a perfect makeup of them. My grandmother was the most sweetest, giving, loving person that you can ever meet. She was the head of our family, and that she instilled that love and showed me how to love and also how to give that back. But then my grandfather was the most giving, loyal, but street knowledge. When I say thug, don't get that as he was a thug like in the worst way, but he comes from a street mentality. He was professional, owned his own business. He coached basketball. If you remember Crane High School back in the Marcus days and King days, he was a basketball coach at Crane, and he also was the head of security at that time for the Board of Education, CPS at that time. So, but he was the street side. He was the one that put that toughness in me. And my grandmother went to church all the time. So we were definitely in church when I was a kid. And my grandfather, maybe on holidays, Easter, and stuff like that. But even right now, I mean, it's in my heart. I'm a firm believer of God. My faith is amazing. I don't go to church. I'm not going to front like I should. But my background comes from my grandparents in the very beginning of pushing me to.
Right. You don't have to go to church in the Black community though, because the church will come to you. It's like osmosis for us. Like, because the church was such a significant part of our freedom and our ability to move around, you don't have to go to church. It comes to you in one way or the other. So without getting too deep, I'll just say that.
Yeah, our community's anchored in that notion or concept of the church, but it doesn't always mean physical church.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So I want to talk about, since we're on church, and we had Carla Prather on here, we've had a few really, wonderful female vocalists, many of whom you've worked with, who you helped launch their careers. I like to talk about women, in house music, because I feel like because the field is so dominated by men and the DJ and production part, we sometimes leave out the stories of the women who are essentially the heart of it. Because when we listen to 80% of the tracks, well, maybe not that much, but when we listen to a huge percentage of the tracks, it's the voice. It's the voices, that we remember. And you've done a really great job of, with Teresa Griffin and Carla and Mary J. Blige, Lady Alma, of course, Ari Lords, who's on your label, so many folks who we know of. I'm not even naming half of them.
Kathy Summers, got to get
absolutely.
So, I'd love for you to talk about some of those partnerships, and you can talk about what's new or old, or, what draws you into partnership with women who you've worked with before. And then, after that, I'd love to hear some advice for a lot of these young vocalists and some of the older vocalists who want to, stay relevant and back in it.
Of course. Like for me, I'm going to say this. It's one of those things that I look back on my career and look at all of the women like you said, that I have worked with. And, you know, let's take Teresa Griffin, for instance. I first met Teresa, shout out to Mary Datcher. She introduced me to her years ago.
Very big ups, yeah.
And, you know, from there, we did a record. People think Wonderful was our first record, but our first record that we did together was called Sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
And we just hit it off because Teresa was not the type of artist to where she thought, hey, it's my way or the highway or this or that and this and that. She was like, look, you tell me what we need to do and let's do this. And we went in, we sung the whole record. We did Sunshine. We put that out and we hooked back up and we did Wonderful. And in between that time, we just, you know, developed a great working relationship. And even today, it's just, I feel like God put me in the right places at the right times to be exposed to all these. Later on, we went to do Wonderful, toured the world. The record was dead and we was off to some other stuff. Then all of a sudden the record started blowing up in America.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That record is 3 years old.
I remember I was wondering what happened because I remember when it came out and we played it for a while.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of went away and suddenly it like blew up. And I'm like, how did that happen?
New York and New Jersey, for whatever reason, discovered that record. And that was all she wrote. Like we was getting messages like BLS is playing your record. And then apparently we got a soft ad at that time on BLS. And we like, yo, this record is, oh, we own this. We over here. We ain't Wonderful. We didn't tour. I mean, like we toured all of Europe. The first time I went to Africa, me and Teresa went to Africa together for the first time. Touring, I mean, literally all over the world, Asia. And to see that record come back the way it did 3 years later, and now to be a classic, like I feel like if I hit a record again, I'm gonna kill myself. But then you know what I mean? And so it's the same situation like the chemistry with Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just all of these amazing singers. You know, I had a great conversation with Maya yesterday. She's back doing some stuff. So I'm just in the right places. God has just set me up to be with these beautiful, talented women. And I'm just accepting my role and to do what I need to do.
You know, I can relate with you 200%. You know, I got Lori Branch as a co-host, Lauren Lowry as a super duper.
You're a lucky man, Kev.
You guys are.
Man, I'm happy to be in that club.
You are too kind. I am equally privileged just to be in your company. So, you know, so back to women who are trying to do this. It's not an easy thing to do. What advice would you give a woman who's watching this show, who's a vocalist? I mean, let me tell you who's in my mind. So I have friends who I worked with, who are just went to church with, some of whom are around our age, my age. I know I'm a little older than you. And some who are in their 20s who are really trying to come up. What can they do, you know, to really try to make an impact?
Y'all listening? Y'all tell your friends. DJ Terry Hunter at gmail.com. Email me. Let me hear a demo and let's go. That's it and that's all. In our
you know, we got hundreds of listeners.
Craig Loftus just said he never answers his phone, so I think email might be the better answer.
Hey, Craig, I don't answer for you sometimes.
Oh.
Look, I need Craig for something. I'm sorry, Craig. Craig got to do something for me, so I'll take that back. But no, but I just think that in all seriousness, to advice that I would give is really know your craft. Figure out your voice. Know your voice. Push. Listen, so many people today, I swear, all kind of singers, I don't understand it. They feel like it's a disrespect or it's beneath them to continue to get vocal training. Get vocal training. The best of them do it. Like, learn your voice. Your voice is an instrument. Learn it. And that's why I feel like it's so many lazy singers today that they don't seek that training anymore. And so that's why you have people like Shantae Savage, Teresa Griffin, Jennifer Hudson. Like, I wish I could have videotaped how that session with me and Jennifer Hudson was in the studio, how she was being vocally produced by Harvey Mason Jr., that's a legend in this game, has had so many hits. And advice that then Harvey will come to me in Wayne and was like, okay, well, what y'all want us to do here? Because they respect the fact that we are who we are in this genre of music. You know what I mean? And
I do.
I think that's the key. Learn your voice. Your voice is an instrument. Do training, do runs, exercise it, and just learn a little music theory, because sometimes you get singers that has a great voice but don't really know how to use it. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's do harmonies. Right? What's that? Oh, give me a third. Oh, give me. They don't know.
They don't know that. They don't know that.
So it's one of those things where that's fine, and we can get around that because we have amazing background singers and other singers that can do it. But I would just say, learn your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Learn your voice.
So big shout out, Eric Welton's in the room, Louis Green, Melody Diz,
Alan King.
Alan King, what's up? Congrats on the new baby, Alan.
Yeah, granddad.
Yes, sir.
Preston Shanks, Brian Pope. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Listen, we have so little time left, so I'm gonna ask a favor.
Yes.
Can you give us an extra 5-10 minutes?
We could do 20 minutes if you like.
Woo! Wonderful.
Let's
Okay,
go.
so I won't keep you all night, but just maybe a little bit past the hour.
Let's go.
So we're just about halfway through with what I want to talk about. This always happens, but I want to talk a little bit about like your hip hop influence. Yes. Where did that happen? When did that happen?
So that happened in like between 84 and 86 to, like, people don't know this. I loved house music, right? And was DJing house music, but I really wanted to do hip hop. Like, I really, really wanted to produce hip hop. And it was so funny. Another fun fact that people may not know is, shout out to my man, Dion Wilson, AKA No ID. He, at the time when we were kids, he went to Luther South High School and we hooked up. He was DJing, him, Twilight Tone, and they're playing house music, and, you know, New Rashid then, Common, and Dion was doing house. And I actually hooked No ID up with Armando, and he released his first track on Armando's label under the moniker 326. And people don't know that. And Dion was trying to do house, and I was trying to do hip hop. And it went like this. So hip hop started working for him because they had Common, right, and the house thing was working for me. But so I got in it just loving the culture, loving what those songs was about, like all of that. So I really, in the beginning, I wanted to produce hip hop.
And are you still doing it?
Yes, absolutely. I just released a record about 2 months ago on Shantae Savage and Shauna that was with DTP, Ludacris, and we did a record that is reflective of what we're going through right now called Tear It Down. So if you guys haven't heard it, go to iTunes and check out Shantae Savage and Shauna. But absolutely, I'm back to producing any and everything that feels good to me.
That's fantastic.
That's where I'm at with it right now.
See, I was right. Prolific, productive. Just, I mean, come on, you are doing it all. You really show people how to do it. Yeah, Shantae Savage, one of my all-time favorites. Shantae, if you're watching, I would really want you to come on the show. I would love to chat with you. I'm a big, huge fan. Her voice is beautiful. And man, I used to work at a club called CK's. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it, but it was a girls' bar that was open for 30 years. And I was a Saturday night DJ there for about a year and a half. And I think it was Bet You'll Never Find, the Steve Silk Hurley's remix of it. Yeah. Those people would go nuts for that song. I had to play it every week for a year. I mean, seriously, you could tell they were waiting for it. Yeah. But that's just one of many.
I wrote Shantae's first bio too.
Look at you. Okay, well, hey, Shantae, if you're out there, I want you to come on the show.
Come on the Vintage House.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. That's a phone call.
All right.
That's super awesome. Okay, we are planning our shows for like the next 2 years.
We always ask our guests anyway, about who's got next, right, Lori?
Right.
So, all right. So let's move on. We have not even talked about your catalog.
Yes.
We've not talked about your video production. We've not talked about your world travels.
Yes.
So I want to jump around a little bit and start with sort of your travels.
Yeah.
I've been listening to, everybody's seen the movie Green Book, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of the Green Book till I saw the movie, but like I became obsessed. I like bought a Green Book off of eBay, and then I listened to the podcast. This guy's doing a podcast. His name I'm blanking on. I'll remember. It's a wonderful podcast. Yes. Go ahead, Kevin.
You got to watch Lovecraft Country.
I am watching it, and that's so that's another reason why I'm obsessed with it. So
okay,
if someone was to create a house music Green Book for the United States, like let's take the pandemic out of the picture. But if there's a place that people need to go to, whether they're performing or it's a club or they got to hear the best DJs, and they are driving around the United States, what would be in that Green Book? Where should they go? Where would
in the United States or in the world?
I want to start with the United States, and then I'll go to the world.
Because we're stuck here anyway right now.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question, Lori. So, like, obviously, we would have to go back because a lot of the venues are not open. But if we could travel back in time, just a few years,
that's fine.
And obviously, I don't want to bring up the legendary clubs like the Music Box and the Warehouse and Sour.
Let's travel back in town just a few years, like sort of relevant.
Tell you, Shrine on a Sunday night.
Yeah,
Terry Hunter was a had-to-be place, and the reason why I say that, and also Tuesday nights with Mike, but on Sunday, shout out to Reggie Corner, my partner in crime with that, is that we did a lot of things and we brought a lot of artists and DJs in Chicago that has never came. And the funny part about it, because that was the reason how we started doing Bang, was that I was traveling all over the world and I was like, yo, I come back home and it's nothing on the level of what I'm used to in Europe. Like, yo, why aren't the big singers coming to Chicago? Like they, would come in spurts, but I'm like, I want to change that. And we was the first to bring Black Coffee to Chicago. We was the first to bring Bootsy. We was the first to bring Josh, I believe. It was just so many artists. So I would say definitely the Shrine, definitely just because of, you got a view of really what the city was with Mike Dunn on a Tuesday night. I think in New York, you had the Shelter, you had Louis Spot. What was the club on? It just closed. God, a few years ago. Cielo.
Okay.
But and I'm gonna tell you another spot. If we travel back a few years ago, if we go west to LA, Marcus Wyatt had one of the best nights I've seen probably in the States for a while. He did early on an event called Does Your Mama Know? Just think about that name. And
I wouldn't.
Started at 12 midnight and went to wee hours in the morning, and then that stopped. And then he also established the brand called Deep, and that was some of the best parties. I mean, I was at that point, I was ready to go to LA and move. That's how powerful those nights were.
Wow.
And you got so many, places in Europe, London.
So all right. So now we're at a Green Book and we're in a plane.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Terry Hunter Show. Where would people find you in Europe? Because you've been all over the place, and talk about your favorites, like what was happening.
London, obviously became one of my favorites. One of my friends that I first met when I traveled to London in 89, 90, by the name of Warren. He did a club. It was a club in the UK at that time called Heaven, but he had a smaller room that had about 400 people. That was called Strictly Rhythm. And that room, because Heaven was a gay club, but that room in Strictly Rhythm was, I think it kind of helped shape the scene in London at that time. And years later from that, Ministry of Sound. And then for me, one of my best markets where for years, I mean, to this day, I would go to Italy 20 times, 30 times a year, all over the country.
Wow.
Up and down Italy. Switzerland, I held my first residency in Europe, and that there was, you young and you don't think about it. I used to fly to Lausanne, Switzerland,
Yeah.
every week for 6 months. So I would fly there
From the United States?
from the United States, Friday night there, get a gig somewhere on Saturday,
yeah,
come home Sunday, and we'll fly right back and leave Chicago again Thursday to get to Switzerland. And
I know you don't like to fly.
Listen, oh my God.
We talked about this.
Oh, Lori, I swear. And so, but see, at that time, I was okay. I had what really started my turbulent flight times was literally I had turbulence. I did a gig in New York, and I was flying from New York to London, and we were flying, and we kind of flew 2.5, 3 hours out. Something happened, and long and short, the captain came on and was saying that they was not able to elevate. They couldn't shift gears to go higher, and we had to turn around to land.
Okay.
And they had to dump fuel because the plane obviously was too heavy.
Wow.
And after we turned around, coming back, everything was fine. I'm sitting looking at my seat. Now it's night. I'm like, why is there a light outside in this pitch black dark? We over the Atlantic, you know. So the flight attendant kind of gave me it's okay. Well, I'm looking at her like, hold on, man. Well, I opened up that window and looked. The wing of the plane was on fire.
No.
Listen, that was the most horrific experience I had. And the one thing you know, people always say, oh my God, I bet you people was hollering and screaming. For 2 hours, you could hear a mouse fart. It was that silent.
That's terrifying.
And
oh my God.
I knew it was worse. So they dumped the fuel because of the wind, the flames got put out. But as we were landing into it wasn't New York, it was Newark, New Jersey. You're looking, and I'm looking out the window, and there is fire engines, ambulance, all kind of medics waiting for the plane, because I know they thought the worst might have happened. We landed, you know, it was safe, and then we got switched on another plane. And then ever since that point for me, if we hit a bump and do like this, I'm like, uh-oh, hey, whoa, hey. So it's been rough.
You were traumatized.
Absolutely.
Well, it hasn't stopped you though, because you continue to fly, even through your fear. You white knuckled it, and you continue to be as prolific and productive as you always were.
I was seeing you. I was running into you more in the airport than on the street.
Sure was. Sure was, Kevin. Sure was.
So speaking of being, listen. Tell me, roughly speaking, how many tracks have you produced in your lifetime as a producer?
I don't know, Lori.
Is it 100, 200, 1,000? Where you at?
So I'll say this, and I was producing records before Tease Box. We're doing something big. We're upon our 100th release, in 2 more releases.
Okay.
Box. And so I also have, man. And so I have Tease Crates, and I have a new label called Mirrorball, but I would say it's well off into thousands, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing.
I'm gonna dig. I want to find that out. I'm gonna go over my discography. And
people are guessing.
I'm gonna find
Discogs has you at about 4,400.
This one, someone said 35. Reggie Davenport said 300. Okay, so I think we had a contest going. How many tracks?
No.
Chosen Few. One of y'all should know this.
Yes.
All right, we got to figure it out, because if you are hitting close to 1,000, that's good.
I think I'm upwards to 1,000 for sure.
That's simply amazing. And I know. Okay, so listen, I have been to Terry's studio. He allowed me and my.
Let me stop.
Yes.
Stop you right now. I'm gonna stop.
Go ahead.
I'm putting this out here to the world.
Yes.
We are doing this. Okay, Lord.
What are we doing?
We are getting your uncle, and we're going to
my cousin.
Your cousin.
Yes.
And we're going to create. We ain't going to give it to everybody right now.
Okay.
We're doing this. So I'm making myself accountable for all the stuff that I got coming on. We're going to do this project, and this project is going to be incredible. And guess what, people? I'm going to give you this. Lori is going to co-produce it with me.
Woohoo!
That's what we're going to do. So I just wanted to put that out there.
That's what's up. You just made my whole year. You know,
you should, Lori, I screenshotted your smile.
Yeah.
Lit up the whole screen.
Wow, that's I'm making myself accountable now. We putting this out here to the world.
And listen, I'm so excited. I am really, really excited. And I will tell you this. I know it will happen because I've been to your studio. Yes. And one of the things that I admired so much, because I've been in a lot of studios, it was so organized. I mean, he's got his projects lined up. Like, here's where we are. Here's what's going on. Everything's all written out. It's lined up. I was like, I don't know if he did that for me, but I don't think so. I think this is how he gets it all done.
Listen,
am I right?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's been so crazy in the last few months since we've been on this pandemic. I am a lot more unorganized right now, but you know, I gotta give a shout to the team. Because literally without them, I will be through the roof. And first of all, big shout to my brother, DJ Immaculate. People don't realize is that he runs and does a lot of the day-to-day stuff for Teasbox and Mirrorball. Shout to Black Widow. She's very instrumental in doing our Teasbox chat that we have, and also help run and organize my hopefully we will launch it next year, the Imaginal Music Festival, and we had a #1 record with them. But also Wayne Williams doing the A&R. I cannot forget my brother Mike Dunn. Mike Dunn is so instrumental in helping what you saw with the studio, keeping everything organized. He's such a tech head and is always on me about just that, staying organized, making sure everything is in place. So that right there is a team effort. And then I have to shout out Chosen Few and my brothers Alan King that making sure, like, you know, I have a situation coming up that legally I'm protected and just looking over and overseeing stuff besides the day-to-day stuff that, you know, Mr. AK, the Kane, SNL's very own, but y'all should make sure that our business is tight. And then I got to shout out my brother, the other light-skinned one, Wayne Williams, for just being
the other light-skinned one.
Yes, and the A&R. So it's definitely what you saw is accurate. We're a little unorganized now due to the pandemic, but we on point. But the team is so important. It's just like with you, Kevin, and Lauren. That's a team. It's not one person.
That's teamwork makes the dream work.
It does. It honestly does. And I love all of them so much. Like, and I can't thank them enough. And shout out to my man Mo Knows Best, my brand manager, and making sure all the images is good. So I got that out the way. All right.
Well, hey, listen, I'm with you. I appreciate that you appreciate the people that support you and lift you up. That's what we got to do for each other.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Aaron, Lauren, Eric Welton. Thanks for tuning in. Tony Sundance Evans, Celeste, my sister. I see you. I love you. Thank you for watching us. All right, so we're gonna wrap up a little bit because I'm really keeping you over.
No, you're not.
Let's
go. Let's go.
All right, so I want to ask you about, you know, so sort of like this idea. We call it in our and I work for a corporation, and we call it work-life balance.
Okay.
So I know because I saw it on your board. You've got 20 projects going in your head at any given time.
Absolutely.
You are producing videos. You are the CEO of a company. That means you got employees. You got singers. You got a lot of people coming at you for a lot of different things. How do you, what we call work-life balance? Mm-hmm. You also have a family. Mm-hmm. How do you balance all of these things and stay sane and happy and healthy?
You know, it's hard because sometimes you can get so, especially with the traveling, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I just remember one time, like late 2019, I was completely exhausted. And I'm like, nah, man, like I can't do it. It was just to the point of when I was traveling, I told my agents, I can't fly to Europe to do one gig anymore. Mm-hmm. If it's not at least 3 or 4 days, I'm not doing it. It's because it's exhausting. Like imagine people, and a lot of people think it's fun, but imagine,
that's right.
you know, it's not. I mean, even in business class, it's still on a plane. I remember last year before AD, I had a gig in Angola, and I flew from Chicago to Ethiopia, had a connection in Ethiopia, and then had to go over to Angola. Did some production work there, studio work. Then I left there, had to fly from Angola to Spain. Spain one day did a gig, then fly over from Spain to Amsterdam for ADE, and was up all day and all night, and then come home. When I got home on that Sunday, I literally passed out. And so that was the thing of, Terry, you doing too much. Slow down.
Yeah.
And from that point, I got to become a family man. I have a son. I have 2 kids. My other son is grown. And I have a wife. I have a family. I have to be more accountable. So the great thing about it was when I'm working in the studio, my studio is at home. So I'm downstairs or upstairs from them, and we're right there. But again, I've had people come in and come out of, you know, my work situation. And I think right now the balance of the team is amazing. And so when you say videos, it's good to have, like my grandfather always told me, and shout out to my brother Jazzy Jeff, by the way, we have a #1 record with him out now on Mirrorball. But it was always, I heard my grandfather say it in different words, but I've always heard Jeff talk about that. It's just get somebody on the team that does something that you don't do. And that's what makes a great team. And the stuff that Immaculate does, the stuff that Mike Dunn does, the stuff that Danielle and Wayne and Alan does, I don't do. It's like we are a team. I'm running point. There's my 2 guard. There's my 2 power forwards. There's my, and we all have this common goal of putting that ball in the hole and scoring for the team.
G Money.
Yes. Yes.
I appreciate the way that you put that, because listen, we're not getting younger.
No.
And there's a lot of stress in this community. You know, you do this full time. Other people do it part time. Some people do it sometime. You know, but however you're doing it, if you're in the music industry, you know, whether it's your full time work or part time passion, it can be stressful. Because you're always trying to stay relevant. You're always trying to, you know, sort of exercise your artistic, you know, muscles, and you want to be loved. You want to be taken seriously. That's stressful. It's stressful being a Black artist. It's stressful being a woman artist. It's stressful being a 50-year-old plus artist. Hello. I mean, let's keep it real. And so what happens is, and we're seeing this. There's this book called The Fifth Inning. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that, but a Black author wrote this years ago, who was saying he starts seeing a lot of his friends start checking out in the 5th inning, 50 years old plus, because you can't sustain that lifestyle that you had in your 30s and 40s, in your 50s and 60s.
No, you cannot.
You cannot sustain it. And often, you know, we're going and going and going. Our diet falls off, our exercise falls off, our ability to maintain balance falls off. And then we wonder why people are in their 50s having, you know, major serious adverse health outcomes. So I want to put in a plug for work-life balance to you, to Kevin, to everyone who's watching, because that is ultimately, you know, what's going to give you a long and happy life.
That I swear to God, you got to text me that work-life balance. I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that.
It is so very important.
It is crucial, and especially when the energy and the output is at such a high level, right?
Yes.
You're bringing all of yourself to every project, and that can be draining. And I think the opportunity for the audience, right, listening tonight, is to hear what you have as thoughts about, you know, what the broader house community, particularly, you know, Chicago-based contributors to this genre, what do you think is missing or is still needed to help this community continue to thrive.
How many more minutes you said we got, Lori?
Well, listen, they're not going to cut us off. I think we can go for a while, but I don't want to keep you all night. I know we got to go.
It's just, you know, the one thing, and I try to keep cool about it because anybody that know me, I don't jump to social media with personal stuff. In fact, you know, I'm being told by E and Immaculate and my man Mo, you know, you got to post more, you got to do this, you got to be more engaging. And the one thing that I think with Chicago, and I'm sure you guys have had it on the show, I'm a fan of the show. I watch the show every chance I get.
Thank you.
One thing,
Yeah, appreciate it.
one thing, absolutely one thing is this. I don't understand how people are using their platforms on Facebook and Instagram to be this late in the game to be so bitter. So what I think we need is, and I don't know
Right.
if we will ever get there. And it's clusters of people that get along, but the hate that is being translated, the just the negative posts, the negative comments about DJs. Who was there first? You didn't go to this party. You wasn't at that party. You didn't do this. And this person ain't that. It's just tearing down. And that's what I'm just like, yo, at the end of the day, I don't get involved in it. And if
That's
I do
the best
get involved in something, it's a situation where there's a personal attack and I need to address it. But other than that, I just stay away from it. And it's a shame because I'm going to say it. Chicago has so much talent. And you guys that's doing it, you know who you are. You're not even looking at your talent. Your talent is next. The BS is first. And I just wish that we can just somehow stop tearing each other down for self reasons. You want to see. It's like some of these people just to see their name out there, just to see, put their name on the record on the fly, the DJ here, to say they DJ there. They don't care about, they just want to see their name. I don't understand where this mentality came from. And so I just want to say, to answer your question, I just would like to see us stop stealing, stop hating, stop downing the next man, and especially in the Black community. You know what I mean? We have to, listen, all these cats out here, hey, you ain't put me on and this and this and that, and you ain't did this, and everybody feels entitled. That's the thing. They feel so entitled. No, we work for this. No, I'm not. I'm a new DJ. You a new DJ? You 49. Well, what do you mean you new? It's not new. So my whole thing is like, let's just stop all that. Like, when did it become so important where everybody's the DJ now? Nobody's a dancer no more. No one likes to go to the parties just to party. You want to go to the parties to talk about what he playing or talk about why he in that position and you not in that position. And we've lost it to me. And I just think that's why I focus on who I focus on with my team and try to take that. I mean, look at Immaculate. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, because he got to have some talent. But when we hooked up, I'm like, I'm going to take you from here to here because I know you want to get it and you have talent.
Yes.
He didn't say, hey, man, why this person here? Why this person there? It's just, to me, I just think that we got the baddest DJs, musicians, producers in the world. Let's even go there for major artists, right? Beyonce. That's anybody you can name up. Most of all they musicians come from here.
That's amazing.
They come from Chicago. So it's like, I just want us to get it together. And I think it's healthy and positive to ask these questions. And I think if it only affects one person, that was one person that's been affected, and that's it. But I just really hate to see the state of where we are right now with just trashing each other on social media. And the world is just sitting back like, that's what they're doing if y'all don't believe it or not.
They're like, Chicago messy.
Right, messy.
Yeah.
Messy. So I try to stay away from that mess.
Yeah.
I align myself with people like you, Lori, and you, Kevin, and we talk about positive things. And
that's right.
This guy's doing positive things and has shared so many, and this is a true story that I have had a couple of friends hit me from all over the world that watch the show and see reruns of it and knew who certain people were that we like, oh, wow, yeah. We took them for granted. because of this show, you guys expose them. So
Thank you.
let's just keep on the up and positive notes like that. But
That it has to
I hope
be.
I answered your question, Kev.
All right, you did, and we're committed to that goal and mission. We want to capture the stories, the perspectives,
Yes.
right? Because ultimately, this is our thing, and it is our narrative that we can't let anyone else control, right? We got to control it.
And it's also our way to share positive energy, because I believe exactly as you do, Terry, that I am not going to feed negative energy. So when I see that posted, I do not respond. You know, if it's something personal, you know, certainly I'll deal with that person.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to feed it, because the more you feed it, the more it grows.
Absolutely.
You feed the things you want to grow. So I'm going to feed love. I'm going to feed support. I'm going to feed people who are kind and generous, like yourself, and like, you know, the people that we appreciate and who are helping Chicago to have a good name and not the messy name.
Hello.
And let me say one other thing about that. If you're listening to this and you search your mind and you know that you put negative stuff out there, it is like a cancer.
It is.
It's like a cancer to the community, but more importantly, it's like a cancer to you. That kind of stuff erodes your soul. And what you reap, you sow. So the more you're saying, I'm not getting, that's the stuff you're putting in the universe. You won't get it. So I want to repeat what you said, Terry. Let's knock it off. Let's reel it in. Do what you need to do. Pray, meditate. You know, drink, whatever. You know, don't drink. Get used to herb, whatever it takes. Calm the heck down. And before you write that negative thing, just think about it. Think about how it's going to affect us, how it's going to affect you. So on to a positive note, I listened to DJ Jazzy Jeff's song. Thank you, Tease Box, because it is a jam. I love it so much. Playing it right before you came on. I was trying to figure out how to integrate it. But what do you have? There's a lot. I know you got a lot working on, but talk about what's happening now. What do you want people to know?
Yes.
What do you want to promote?
Yes.
And, what can we all do after we get off of this this live feed?
Yeah. So I think everybody knows about my label Tease Box. Again, look for something special. We're putting a nice little compilation together to celebrate the 100th release on Tease Box. We are we are going to do a small documentary, kind of touching on stuff from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Look forward to that. I started a new label. We're on I think of Emacs there, our 6th or 7th release, which is the Jazzy Jeff record. But the label is called Mirrorball. And Mirrorball is the label that I kind of wanted to focus on, to where we could kind of put a lot of stuff out, not just really house, but a lot of stuff that has, you know, live musicianship. Even if it's an R&B record, an 80s sounding record, a disco sounding record, I wanted Mirrorball to be that label that represents that time and that sound. So I'm really happy we just had a #1 now with Jazzy Jeff. Shout out to my brother Jazzy Jeff. Also Melba Moore. Shout out to Immaculate.
Great.
Black Widow, another #1 with Love Manifesto.
Mm-hmm.
The video is out. Go get that. It's so much stuff happening. The records with Mike Dunn that we're doing. We got some house and HD projects coming out. And let me make this clear. It's funny. We've been doing a lot of streams, and people thought house and HD was like house and high definition. It's Hunter and Dunn, our last name. So we did a play off of that.
Okay.
I'm just looking forward to really planning my birthday next year, August. But before that, you know, everything that we're doing so much stuff with the Chosen Few DJs. We all got our streams going, so shout out to all my Chosen Few brothers. I have a show, Sanitize Your Soul, on Thursdays.
Yeah,
so y'all check that out, 5 to 7. And you got Alan, and then Wayne is at the first of the month, and Mike Dunn is kind of in between, trying to figure out how he's going to get back into it and what day he's picking. And Immaculate is working on a project with me. It's so much stuff. My album, Lord Jesus has been,
And then there's an album.
and then there's an album coming, and that's been going. So I think we are finally about to get on the right track with getting this album released in 2021, and hopefully we'll get a single. But I got a lot of inspirational features on there that I'm so looking forward to.
So it's not in
I see a Grammy
yet?
in your future. I see a Grammy in your future.
Oh my God, Lori, come on!
I do.
Keep putting these jewels.
I see it, man. I see
I
it.
receive it. I receive it.
Is the album done and you just haven't released it? Or you still
the album is pretty much done. It's not mixed yet.
Okay,
but the songs and everything are recorded. But nice. It was in a deal, and we were having some differences on a major label. So I don't want to put that out there yet until I know that's rock solid, which should be by the end of the week. Okay. But songs are done. We just have to mix and master, and a couple of more we got to record. But I can tell you, I have Estelle on a song. I have Common on a song. I have Raheem Devon on a song.
Oh.
Like it's Mike Dunn on a song.
This is next level stuff.
Yeah, it's a couple of out that's really big, but I'm gonna let that be a surprise.
So the Vintage House Show has this reputation for enabling breaking news opportunities. So when you're ready, not forcing anything tonight, but when you're ready, you got.
I was gonna say that earlier because Lori was like, "We are booking talent all the way up." Listen, I need to on the show. I got some more stuff we need to talk about. So
anytime, anytime, dude. Okay. You are welcome every week.
Yes,
I love it.
So
I love it. I love it.
I just have one philosophical question, though. That's not really. It's in the context of your mantra, imagine no music. I just wanted to ask if you could spend 30 seconds breaking that down for the audience.
So what I was thinking when I first started my album, and to me, I'm one of those guys that I process things a lot, think about things, and I didn't want to put in this climate an album together to where people were going to just kind of pick the songs. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of albums in the last few years have just been a collection of songs and not an album. And I wanted to have, and I'm going to have interludes in the album, certain songs that just are not what you expect. Mm-hmm. And to me, before I got started on that album, I needed to come up, what am I going to call this? Like I wanted something that meant something to me. And I remember spending months having countless conversations with Mike Dunn, and me and him bounced so much stuff off of each other, and Wayne. And I was just like, man, I can't start this album. This was a few years ago. And I was like, somebody said to me in a conversation, man, I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have music. And I was like, wow, imagine no music. Boom. There it is.
Love it.
That set up the first song. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is, but when you hear the album, the very first song, when you hear that, it is not what you think it is. Mm-hmm. And that right there, I said, this is the first song on the album. Now I can start laying the foundation and putting the rest of the songs together. So my radio show in England is called Imagine No Music. Okay. House FM, and it's just powerful. And I tested it out traveling. And I would have my shirt on, Imagine No Music. And so I knew I had something when people was just like, oh, wow, I can't. Oh, wow, great shirt. Oh, wow, I can't. Like I said, oh,
of course.
I got something, y'all.
You do have something.
When you really think about that, just imagine if we did not have music, what kind of world or society would we be?
Depressed.
Yes. Yes.
Expression.
Music is what's getting us through this pandemic. Let's keep it real. There's a reason why people was getting thousands and thousands of views on their lives, especially in the early part of it, because it was like, it's like helping me breathe.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Terry Hunter, you've been very generous with your time. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this discussion tonight. we could go on and on. So
We
for that
could.
reason, we're just going to have
we
you
got
back.
just the most slots from later on because we haven't even
I
scratched
know.
the surface.
I know. Well,
That's the thing. We haven't scratched the surface with this.
I know. But we like to do this with you uninterrupted. We're going to do it again very soon.
And I want to figure out, Kevin, and everybody that's on here watching, like in all seriousness, we need to figure out, we need to get this show nominated. We need to get the powers that be, because I have been interviewed a whole lot, right?
Okay.
And Kevin, been knowing you for years. Lori, been knowing you for years. And I swear to you, I've been on the show with you, Kevin, before. And Lori, when we have conversations, we just go on, and I love it. Thank you guys for doing this. Like, I swear, I know you guys hear it, but we need to figure out, you guys need to be nominated for best. Like, I don't know what's the category, the best documentary series, internet series. I don't know if that's the right words, but y'all know where I'm getting at. But y'all are incredible. Lori, you look amazing. I told you.
Thank you.
And some of these people that's out here that's been doing this forever, they can't touch y'all. Like, and I sit back and I'm like, damn, how do you have a career in radio or TV? You're like, you suck. You get out the future. Now, my people here, we gonna figure this out. That y'all have to.
Wow.
Our super duper producer says yes. Heart.
Yes.
Fire.
She's all about it. Lauren Lowry is her baby. Yes. She adopted us. And
where's Lauren? I'm mad Lauren ain't on here when I'm on here. Where's Lauren?
I don't know where she is.
I'm mad. The next time I come on here, she got to be on the show. I'll be just on there for everybody else.
We can make that happen.
Next time. Well, Terry,
I'm teasing.
Terry, thank you so much. I mean, that means the world coming from you. You are really just a delightful person and a wonderful, spirited human being. And your generosity is it's so from the heart, and it's just so meaningful and profound. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate your whole team, Eric, Chosen Few, all the people that you named. Thank you for supporting this brother. Thank you for supporting them. Thank you for supporting our community.
Absolutely.
So we will have you back.
Yes.
And I will be in touch. Me and my cousin, we gonna have a little.
That's my man. So I can't wait for the knowledge for him to drop on the world.
Oh my God. Yes, he's got a lot.
Yes, he does. Thank you guys so much. Megan, you already know, bro.
Yes, sir.
I think it's Chicago. Thank you. Like,
appreciate
this is home, so this means a lot. You know what I mean? This is home, man. So shout out to everybody in the city of Chicago. I love y'all, and nothing you can do about it.
That's right. All right. Peace, everybody. We'll see you next week on Vintage House.
That's right. 9 o'clock.